There's something that shaped you that no one ever explains. It lived in your house. It decided the mood of the room. It decided how loud you could laugh. It decided when it was safe to breathe. You learned to read it before you learned to read books. And because of the silence, because nobody named it, you sat with it and you made it mean something about you. Maybe you told yourself that you were too sensitive, that you were too emotional, that you were acting over dramatically, that you were too much. But what if you weren't? What if it was silence? Stay with me. I grew up blaming myself for making my stepfather angry when I asked for something as simple as a glass of water. I told myself crying was weak. I thought I was dramatic, and it took me years to understand that I wasn't broken. I was adapting. Children are ruthless storytellers when they are left alone with silence. And if nobody explains the tension in a house, a child will explain themselves instead. And that explanation often sounds like, it's my fault. Did you do that too? Too many of us grew up in houses where everything was obvious, but nothing was named. We saw the drinking, we heard the yelling, we felt the emotional manipulation. We walked on eggshells so well that it became our personality, and we noticed who disappeared emotionally. And there was no one who talks about it. There was nobody said, you come from people who code by numbing. You come from people who survived war, neglect, addiction, repression. You come from a nervous system wired for survival before safety. And without that knowledge, we started to internalize it. Silence becomes confusion. Confusion turns into self blame. Self blame evolves into identity, and identity becomes pattern. Here is the uncomfortable part. Most of our parents weren't evil. Some were, yes, but most they were coping. And to be fair, nobody told them the truth either. But we live in a different time now. We live in a time where we have language, we have therapy, we understand dopamine, we understand cortisol, we understand attachment patterns. We know that addiction changes brain chemistry. We know depression can run through genetics and learned coping. We know chronic stress rewires the nervous system. So why are we still silent? Why are we still whispering? I believe that truth creates context. If addiction runs in the family, I think a child deserves to know that their brain may respond differently to substances. If depression runs in the family, I think that the child deserves to know that dark seasons don't mean that they're broken. It means that they are carrying a lot from their ancestral bloodline. If anxiety runs in the family, they deserve to understand hyper alertness isn't a flaw, it is adaptation. When you say this exists in our family, it is not limiting, you're equipping them. You are saying them, you are telling them to be aware, you are telling them to know their edges, you tell them know your tendencies, you tell them know your power. Knowledge isn't fear. Knowledge is preparation, and preparation creates choice. When I was younger, I used to read a lot, and there's one quote that sticks with me. And I'm curious if you recognize the quote, you know who it's from, or you can name the book. Please comment down below. The quote says, fear of a name increases fear of the thing itself. In school, we once had to tell our recovery story. I made one decision. I would name every single thing that traumatized me. The first time I was standing there and I tried to tell it, it was very harsh, it was very confrontational for me. I ran away sobbing, tears, sobbing. My coach, Ilona, girl, if you hear this, I love you. I really love you. Told me I could soften it. It wasn't necessary for me to be as harsh with the words as I was. But I didn't want to be overpowered by words anymore. The things that happened to me, they were a fact, and I felt like I needed to name it as how it was. Because I refuse to be afraid for a word. So I dried my tears, took a deep breath, followed Ilona, trailed behind Ilona, and I went back. Again, I stood there with tear-stained face, and I did it. Not with the calm and clarity I'm speaking with today, right now, but still, I did it. I named everything. And when I named it, I came to say that I removed the mystery with it. And when I removed the mystery with that, I removed my shame around it. And once my shame was, once I was freed from my shame, I had made space for healing. I wonder what would happen if you named yours. So, tell your kids the truth. Not with blame, not with bitterness, but with responsibility. And let me be clear for a second. This is not about blaming our parents. I mean, we can love our parents and still refuse to repeat their patterns. They did enough in that era on their own. Most of them were never told either. They coped the only way they knew how, which results in us being able to talk about these subjects as I do. So I am very grateful to my parents, my biological father, that they exposed the wounds for me to see them and to heal. Because secrets don't keep children safe, but knowledge and truth does. Cycles don't break by pretending we aren't in control. They break when someone says, yes, this happens, and you know what? I choose differently. So break, be that someone. Tell your kids the truth. Don't do it dramatically. Don't tell it as it is a curse. Don't tell it as it is a prophecy, as it's their destiny. But tell it as a preparation, as the information they need to have to in order to keep them safe and protected. Tell them our family struggles with this, so please be mindful. If you are recognizing this, you are not weak, you are now only aware, so you are equipped, so you can take that and use it in order to don't repeat the same things. I think if we are telling our kids the truth, then we are reinforcing the statement from I'm going to do it better than my parents did. Because you give them everything that you need, that you know now. You give them everything that you know now in order for you to live a healthy and good life. It's everything that you know now. It came to you with the experience of living it through. And when we want to prevent that, we have to share the information, we have to share the process, the knowledge, the insights. We have to be loud enough about it so that we can hear our own wounds. Because where are you going to put the band-aids if you don't know where you're bleeding? And it's funny because I just paused for a moment and I got this download that maybe we have to sit in the loudness with silence because those people who are like really in love with their own voice, those people that are like saying the most irrelevant sentences and opinions to the conversation, and those people, those are the ones who are in their shadow sides, right? So they are okay. That's a different topic. However, a little bit of relevant because those people are very loud, but they are using loudness as a way of coping, as a way to numb their own like inner critical voice, right? Um, that's not the loudness that I'm talking about. But I got the download and I felt really guided to say it, to share this, especially because I know that I'm talking to a specific collective, so maybe that this is a message for someone who's listening. Anyways, back to the topic. Tell your kids the truth, not in a dramatic way, not in a curse, not as a prophecy, but speak it as preparation. Say to your children, our family struggles with this, so be mindful of that. You are not weak, you are aware, you are equipped. Now, addiction doesn't start with a bottle, it starts with pain that was silenced. Depression doesn't start with sadness, it starts with nervous systems that never felt safe. Secrets create shock, and truth creates strategy. Remember the thing I asked you about at the beginning? The thing in your house that everyone adjusted to, but no one really named it or talked about it? What was it? You don't have to write a whole paragraph, but just one word, please, in the comments. Drinking, anger, silence, anxiety, control. Naming it is where cycles start to break. We can love our parents and still refuse to repeat their patterns. We can love them while they hurted us. We can love with forgiveness because forgiveness is also another topic, but it's also a part of the pattern, right? So that's why I probably named it without having it wrote down. Okay. Naming it is where cycles start to break. We can love our parents and still refuse to repeat their patterns. We can honor our lineage and still decide to evolve it. We are the generation with language. We don't get to hide behind silence anymore. I mean, look around. Silence is the last thing that we need right now. So, let's tell our kids. If I ever get them, I will tell them everything about me and our family's history, my family's history. I will tell them gently, I will tell them responsibly, and I will tell them with support, and I'll explain with understanding and compassion towards myself so that they can understand me in that time also. Because truth doesn't curse a child, it frees a child. We thought we were protecting them, but what protects a child isn't silence, because secrets don't keep our children safe. I mean, look at the world, point and case, right? Secrecy isn't protection, it's knowingly keeping them uninformed, which leaves them vulnerable, unguarded, and unprotected. And let me be very clear here, I don't speak with judgments, I don't speak with blame. I don't blame the silence. I don't blame that my parents didn't know any better. I don't blame my grandparents for not knowing any better because they were rebuilding the world again. Like literally, my grandfather is born in 1937, so he had to rebuild. I am very blessed to say that he's still alive. And my grandmother, she's born in 44. She had my great grandmother had to give my grandmother away with someone who she doesn't knew. Sorry, who she didn't that she didn't knew at the time, and imagine how soul fracturing that must be for a mother to give her own child away with someone that she doesn't even know. She didn't know if she ever saw my grandmother back again. So I can understand that my grandparents weren't the ones to teach my parents, basically, right? The importance of speaking up and being loud about it, because there was no time for it. And I don't blame my parents that they didn't knew better, because my parents already did better. I look at the timer and I see that I'm far over time, so I'm going to end this. But before you leave, I want you to invite to sit with this. What was obvious in your house growing up that nobody named? You don't have to explain it. There's no need for it. You don't have to justify it. Also, it is how it is. It is part of your story. If you feel safe enough, just one word in the comments. Naming it is where cycles begin to loosen. If this episode resonates with you, or if this episode, sorry, I can't talk anymore. Subscribe. Not for noise, not for trends, but for truth, for healing, for recovery, and for awareness. This space I created this for people who are done inheriting silence and ready to understand themselves differently. If you know someone who needs this conversation, send it to them, not to expose them, but to equip them. And if you're the one breaking the cycle in your family, I see you. That work is quiet, it's heavy, and it's sacred. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying. Remember, frequency is power. Bye.